Back in 2013, when the LCS was getting kicked off, I was a huge fan. I loved League of Legends, and I loved League of Legends esports. Even though I was like a 400 MMR bronze player who didn't have a hope of getting anywhere near those players, I still enjoyed it very much. I was a huge fan of all the major teams. My favorite was always Curse, but I would sometimes tune into the TSM players' streams. And even as these guys left the LCS and moved on to greener pastures, I still kept up with them. I would tune into some of their streams sometimes, and one of those players happened to be Dyrus, the top laner for TSM. Now this is where my memory starts to fail me and things get a little bit hazy, because I associate this idea with Dyrus, and I think he was playing Overwatch at the time. I just can't find any VODs of it or any videos of him saying this. I really could have just gaslit myself into thinking it was Dyrus. I don't know, but But I remember somebody in the chat asking him about his placements, because they were either going very well or not so good, and somebody just had a question about placements, and all he said is your placement matches is just where you start. Just really good, like, simple advice. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit more because one, I want to help you guys out, but also I need to talk myself into finishing my placement matches. I've done 2 of them and I found every excuse not to finish them because it just, I don't know, I put so much emphasis on those first 10 matches that it scares me almost. You know, I get like a sense of anxiety when it comes to placement. And I've been finding myself thinking about that advice like more and more, you know, like it's just where you start. It's just where the grind starts. I'm going to probably play 16, 20, 30, 40,000 games. These first 10 aren't, you know, they're not everything. They won't be everything. And I say those kind of things to myself and I think about it like that. And then I go on Twitter and I see everybody getting placed diamond. It's like, oh man, if I don't get placed diamond, I'm gonna be worse than them. Like it's very irrational thought, but I don't know, it's just the nature of my brain. My little monkey brain, like I tell myself I don't want to compare myself to everybody and I don't want to let outside things influence me like that, and then immediately I see a tweet of a placement match or a rank and my fucking neuron activates and I'm like, damn. Like, damn, I need to get there. Like, if I don't get placed there, I'm not going to be happy with myself. And it's very toxic. And I'm such an overthinker when it comes to this type of shit that I like, I start watching like psychology videos, like Dr.K videos about my ego. And it's like, this is ridiculous. Like, I feel like I'm going insane. But I mean, the videos help me and I'm glad I watch them. It's just under the, like having to have a video game make me watch self-help videos is so insane. Like that's an insane thing to think about. But since I already watched the videos, let me just share a couple of things with you, because it might actually help you with your ranked anxiety, your placement anxiety, or just anxiety about playing against other humans and feeling angry or bad because you might lose. It's a very real thing that some people do not launch the game, or they stop playing the game because they don't want to feel bad for losing. And that's not usually beginners. It's usually intermediate players who have put in a lot of time and they expect to beat certain people, and when they don't, they just feel bad about themselves. But that's kind of like a journey I've been exploring. So I want to share with you my findings a little bit, because I think it will help you. And most of this advice comes from Dr.K. If you haven't watched him, I'll put it down in the description below, but he's a Harvard psychiatrist who works with a lot of people in the creative space and in the gaming space, and talks about things that I think normal psychiatrists wouldn't talk about, because he plays Dota and he plays games and stuff, so he understands a lot of what people feel when it comes to ranked and their ego and things like that. Anyways, during one of his recent sessions with Ludwig that they did on stream, they talked about problem solving, which is very relevant in fighting games, but also very relevant to your life. And he said that it is almost enough, it's usually enough, for you to just identify your problems. You don't need to think about solving them. Your mind can usually do it on its own. Like, you can just say, this is my problem, and your brain, or that little voice in your head, or that little voice in the pit of your stomach, wherever it is, can usually generate a response. And that sort of quelled my overthinking a lot, lately at least. Because if I can tell myself, you just need to identify your problems, and I let my little brain come up with the solution, then I don't have to overthink about all the possibilities and all the things that could happen and might happen and how it's going to affect my future and how it's going to hurt people around me. Like, all of these insane things that come with overthinking, you don't have to waste your energy on it. You just identify the problem, and you'll come up with a solution. You're smart, and your brain is smart, and it knows what to do. And that's very tough for me to accept. It was very tough for me to accept at first because I want to overthink. I want to think about all the possibilities, but it causes me so much more grief than is necessary, especially in game, right? You don't have time to compute all the possibilities and pick the best one mid-game. You just have to figure out what you're losing to and come up with a solution. Again, very simple, but sound advice. That seems to be what gets through to me, I guess, is one-liners almost, or things that should be very obvious to me rephrased in a way that is very obvious. They talked about stoicism a little bit. I'm not going to get into all that. That's a whole loaded bag, and everybody has their different interpretations of what it really is. But what I took away from it, what can be useful to you without having to understand what stoicism is and who Marcus Aurelius and meditations is and having to read any books, what you can take away from it is that stoicism is fully embracing the emotion, fully experiencing the emotion, but not becoming controlled by it. So if you get angry, you feel it, but you don't let it control you. Instead, you set the intention to be calm or happy again, and then you do what you need to get back there, to get back into the right headspace. It kind of plays into identifying your problem, right? You identify that you're angry, and you say, okay, well, I don't want to be fucking angry all the time, so I'm gonna fix it. And inherently you will know what the solution to that is, whether it's getting off the game, whether it's picking a new character, trying something new, whatever it is, you probably know the answer in your heart. You just have to fucking listen to it. Next, they moved into something that I thought was really interesting. They talked about not being able to execute your potential because of your own ego. And I put in my little notes here, my little journal to myself. This is not a script. This is my schizophrenic journal. And I put in there, I feel like I want to be good at Street Fighter for my ego, not for personal fulfillment anymore, and it's a real problem. And under that, I wrote, remember, it's not to make someone else happy. It's not for other people. It's for me. And I know it's very hard to kind of adopt this kind of stuff, but I wrote it in this notepad because every day I open it up and I read it, and I hope that over time it'll just, I don't know, I just trick myself into being this way, you know? I feel like if I read it enough times, I'll fucking believe it. And lastly, and probably most importantly, I saved this for last on purpose because I know if you made it this far in the video, you fucking care. Like, you want to change, you want to be good at the game, you care about getting better. A lot of people don't, so I wanted to save this for last to really treat you guys, I guess. But Dr. K told this story during the stream where he essentially kind of just floated through high school. He didn't really try, he wasn't a very good student, and he barely graduated. Then he goes to UT, and he graduates with a 2.8, and he starts applying to medical schools one after another, and he finally gets into Tufts University of Medicine. And he said once he got there, he gave up on all these goals that he had to get into Harvard and stuff like that, and he said, I just want to give everything to learning psychology, to learning medicine. And then he said something to the effect of, some people don't need goals. They just need to dedicate themselves to learning something. Because once you set goals, you only work towards them. And it starts to halt your progress because you work towards performance goals, not learning goals and learning things. It's an idea that really resonated with me because throughout my entire academic career, throughout everything that I've learned in my life and been successful at, all the way up and through college, I never aimed for a certain GPA. I never aimed for a certain grade, but I still graduated with honors. I graduated with a very good GPA because all I did was learn. I didn't care about my marks or anything like that. But I just felt like nobody's ever explained it to me like that some people don't need goals, because now, and especially on social media and stuff, all people say is you need to set these goals, you need to reach them, and you need to think big and all these things like that. And it almost feels like you're not doing enough if you don't have your goals written down and you're not always working towards something huge. But I think for people like me, sometimes those goals become hurdles when you start to only focus on them. And then just to wrap up the Dr. K story, after he had decided to just dedicate himself to learning at Tufts Medical School, he did very well and he got into Harvard for his residency. But this video is an extremely roundabout way of saying, don't let it bother you too much. just understand that it's where you start. But if you're an overthinker like me and you need this whole explanation, this video was here for you. And if you ever see a series of videos on this channel of Road to Master or something like that, hopefully you understand how hard it is, or how hard it was for me to mentally calm down enough to do something like that. Because I really want, it sounds really fucking stupid because every Street Fighter YouTuber does it, but I really want to do something like that soon. I just need to overcome these hurdles of mine and really believe in the shit that I write in my little schizophrenic diary here. Anyways, little jump scare for you guys who made it this far. Let me know in the comments if you did watch it all the way through, because I know it was a lot of rambling and shit that probably just didn't make sense. But thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. Talk to you again very soon.